Welcome back to another episode of Inside RCR, your home for everything Richard Childress Racing. Today we're going to discuss Jesse Love going to the Wood Brothers and deep dive into this past weekend at San Diego. Hope you guys are having a great evening or Monday, whatever day you're watching this video. We're going to go ahead and get started and talk about Jesse Love going to the Wood Brothers in 2027. You know, he's a three-time O'Reilly Series winner, the defending O'Reilly Series champion, and also he is sitting second in the O'Reilly Series points, driving the number 2 Wheeling Chevrolet for RCR. And you know, it's kind of a blow to RCR that he's not going to be sticking around and going to the Cup Series with RCR. And you know, it just didn't work out. You know, RCR decided they were going to stick with Kyle Busch back in May, and I think that kind of opened the door for Jesse Love to kind of go look at other options, and that's basically what happened, right? He's a guy that's ready to go Cup racing. You know, his best friends in the Cup Series right now. You know, he has the talent to be a Cup Series driver, and he's been around the O'Reilly Series for a while now, and he's just ready. I know it sucks for RCR. You know, I know we all wanted him to be a part of the Cup stable. We thought he was going to be the next big thing for us or for RCR. But like I said, it just didn't work out. And, you know, I know people are saying RCR dropped the ball on this, and they didn't. They just didn't. You know, I said this last year. I said if somehow RCR loses Jesse Love, it's their own fault. But this time it's not. This time it's not. Because in this circumstance of how everything played out, RCR just was kind of dealt a bad hand. I mean, they chose Kyle Busch, which wasn't a bad choice. It was not a bad choice. Not a terrible choice. Probably the right choice at the moment where RCR is right now. But, you know, obviously we all know what happened. And I'm pretty positive, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty positive that once that door closed for Jesse Love to go Cup racing for RCR in 2027, he went and got that deal done with the Wood Brothers. And that's why he didn't run the Coke 600. That's, you know, that's just how RCR does things. That's how Chevrolet does things. They don't want the next guy to be in a Chevrolet Cup car when they know he's going to go run a Ford next year, right? So that's just how I think it all went down. Check it out. I have an article about the whole Jesse Love situation on my Substack. I'll put it in the description. Kind of talks about what RCR will do next going forward. But yeah, I just kind of want to recap that. You know, I wish Jesse nothing but the best at the Wood Brothers. I'm going to miss him at RCR. I'm going to miss rooting for him, but he still has a lot of work to do in the O'Reilly Series this season. I know him and Danny Stockman will go get the job done and try to defend their championship. But moving on to San Diego, and man, what a great weekend it was, kind of, for RCR. You know, to start off the weekend, they had some speed on Friday. At least Austin Hill did, not just in the O'Reilly car, but in the Cup car. He went out there, was quick early in Cup practice. He was top of the board, and was top of the board for most of the practice until later on. The other team started mocking up and kind of doing some qualifying runs, and the track kind of gained some speed. And, you know, he kind of dropped down to probably like 8th, I think it was, in practice. But he carried it over into qualifying. That's what I was really looking forward to, was him seeing if he could if they could carry that speed over into qualifying. They did. Now, their whole strategy about qualifying, I didn't put that in my notes here, but it just popped in my head. That whole Group 1 qualifying situation was just dumb to me. And I get what they were trying to do, but, I mean, they had what? It was a 15-minute qualifying session, I think it was. They had a whole 10 minutes where they could have went out on track, had nobody in front of them, and probably laid down a really good lap, you know. I know probably the track was too cold to possibly even run a really good lap. So I get why everyone waited. But, man, I kind of wish – I think Austin Hill's lap would have been better if he didn't have traffic in front of him, right? And then Austin Dillon, they had a really good qualifying lap too, based off of that strategy. It kind of helped them a little bit more than it did Austin Hill, and they kind of qualified 18th, I think. Did really good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the O'Reilly race, right? A huge win for RCR on Saturday in the O'Reilly Series. A win that is going to mean a lot to the organization. I know it's just the O'Reilly Series win, but it's the first win since the passing of Kyle Busch. And RCR's hearts have been heavy the past couple of weeks, and you can just see it. They're all just this win's going to mean a lot to them, and for Austin Hill to be able to go out there and do it, and just to honor Kyle Busch with the burnout there by the 8. RC was emotional in victory lane. That win's going to carry them a long ways throughout the rest of the year. And I know Sunday didn't go like everybody at RCR wanted, but I think they can carry the momentum that they got there on Sunday with that win with Austin Hill and kind of carry that into the rest of the year. But moving on to the Cup Series race, like I said, Austin Hill started 10th and Austin Dillon started top 10. I was really super excited for the Cup race yesterday. I thought RCR was going to have a really good day. I thought Austin Hill was going to be a guy that could contend with Connor Zilich and contend with SVG. I thought he had the car capable to do it. Experience-wise, I think a track like San Diego really helped Austin Hill a little bit. Everybody was so new to the track, they didn't really experience didn't really come into play. I mean, it did with SVG, but if you did enough sim work, if you did enough practice, and Austin Hill had a ton of laps on that track, so he kind of knew what he was getting himself into, and that kind of just showed throughout the whole weekend. And he did a really good job for the majority of the race. So he made a mistake there on the restart, and kind of ruined his day. Wasn't the result that they were going to get, and also not the result that they wanted. Same way with Austin Dillon. They had a good qualifying effort, but just kept getting spun out by everybody and their mom, it seemed like. And then once they tried to get their track position back, it was just too tough to rally back from. So obviously Sunday wasn't the greatest day for RCR. Kind of, it's not going to put a black cloud over them because they're still going to be on that high from the Saturday win. But I think looking ahead to Sonoma, I think RCR is going to have a much better day next week because it's going to be a track that they're more familiar with, especially for Austin Dillon. I think the three teams could have a much better day, kind of like a day they had at Watkins Glen this next week at Sonoma. I'm looking forward to see what Austin Hill can do in the 33 next week at Sonoma because, like I said, it's a track he's familiar with. I will hope to see that he can carry the speed over from San Diego into this race because I just, I want to see him start getting more acclimated with this car. And I think a road course, I was just really happy to see the speed that he had last week. And like I said, I just hope he can carry it over. But, guys, thank you guys for watching this episode. I know it's kind of long-winded, but we just had a lot to cover. Let me know what you guys think about Austin Hill, and were you surprised with the speed that he showed this past weekend in San Diego? If you like this video, if you're an RCR fan and you want more of this content, hit like, hit subscribe, and follow me on X.